Hi there. We are actually beginning week 3 of our work in government, US government. We are moving right along. This week, we are going to take a close look at a case called Lopez versus the US government. It's a case that took place in Texas, and we're also going to look at the Commerce Clause. And these are two very interesting elements of congressional history. You may think that this is old and dusty news, but it's not. With COVID and the pandemic, the Commerce Clause has come right to the front of the question as to whether or not the federal government has the right to order state governments to reopen businesses and interstate transportation as tourism. So the Commerce Clause controls interstate commerce and commerce that takes place any place that's considered foreign land. So if you're doing business anywhere but the United States, the Commerce Clause is part of the business you're doing. For instance, if you're importing from China or anywhere else for that matter, you are subject to federal rules and regulations that fall under the Commerce Clause. We're going to learn more about it. So I've highlighted this page. This is our US government week 3 page. Again, you'll note that we've gone to a different format, and it's sleeker, it's more streamlined, and I think you like this better. It's easier to use, and it's a one-pager. So what we're going to do is you're going to go down this week. First thing you're going to do is you're going to look at a reading. You're just going to click right on that, and it's going to open up to the reading that you're going to do on this case, the United States versus Lopez. This is 1995. So this case is interesting because it involves a high school kid like yourself. This guy brought a gun with bullets to school. Now, in 1995, there was a federal law called the Gun-Free School Zone Act, which was passed in 1990, where you could not bring a weapon, a gun, into or near a school zone. So you might think that's logical. Alfonso Lopez, a young man down in Texas, brought a gun to school, and he was arrested and tried in a US federal court for bringing a gun to school and therefore violating the Commerce Clause. Now you might ask, what does the Commerce Clause have to do with this high school kid who brought a gun to school? Well, under the clause of this constitutional act, anything that interferes with interstate or international trade falls under the Commerce Clause. Again, you might wonder, what does this have to do with the Commerce Clause? Well, the federal government maintained that if you brought guns to school, this would damage the integrity of the entire nation's school system. It certainly isn't going to help it, but does it fall under federal jurisdiction? Or is this a state issue or a community issue? Towns, villages, cities. Who gets to decide this? Well, this case went all the way to the US Supreme Court, and that's what we're going to read about with this article. You're going to find out the result of it, and you're going to broaden your understanding of the Commerce Clause. Next, you are going to go look at the video for Khan Academy, because nobody explains things better than
What we're going to do in this video is talk about a relatively recent US Supreme Court case, and this is the United States versus Lopez.
Okay, so we're not going to do that right now. You're going to do that on your own. And when you're done with that video and you've finished the reading, you're going to go into this activity, which is your activity 1. You will have 2 activities, remember, with each checkpoint. So your first activity is to read these questions. There's 9 of them. All right, so you have 9 questions, and you're going to respond as to whether or not the statement that is here, actually they're not questions, they're statements, whether the statement is pro-federalism, against federalism, or neither. So if it's question number 1, you're going to put the 1 in one of these boxes. 2 will go in whichever one you think it belongs in. And you have 9 statements with which to allocate whether or not they are for federalism or against federalism. Now, we talked about federalism in checkpoint 1. So if you need a refresher on that, we know where to find it. You can always go back on your summit to checkpoint 1 to review. Now, activity 2 is every week we have our current event reading and response, and this goes on the Padlet, on the US government Padlet, which is our class Padlet. So you're going to read this article. Again, this is a contemporary issue, the Commerce Clause, COVID-19 in the Constitution. Who's in charge? So if my state, our state, Rhode Island, decides that we're going to shut down and we're not going to let people from New York, Massachusetts, and New Jersey come in, which has happened, can the federal government say, wait a minute, this is interstate, we're involved, we're going to order you to allow people in? Can they do that? That's a question. And you're going to read this article, and you're going to post your response to this question. Does the Commerce Clause give the federal government the authority to order states to reopen businesses and permit interstate travel during the pandemic? This is a question. All right, that's your activity 2. And you're going to go down, see this nice little chart. This is going to tell you that it's your checkpoint. So your checkpoint here is, let's see if I can get this open. Here we go. You're going to answer the question, are the charges against Alfonso Lopez constitutional? So now, by now you have some background on this case. You're going to write 2 paragraphs. This is an argumentative claim. Maybe you feel one way and I feel another. So you know the outcome. You will know the outcome by the time you get to your checkpoint 3, but you can have an opinion about this. And this is argumentative claim. So we are going to decide your opinion. You're going to take a position on this and write a 2-paragraph explanation of why you feel one way or the other. And you're going to use your information from your readings and your video. Okay? Now I put an exemplar in here also so that you have something to look at to help you formulate your response. So here's your exemplar. Now this does not address the question of Lopez versus the US. This addresses a different Supreme Court case, but this is an example of how you should format your response, and you're going to cite certain elements of your other readings and your videos, and we'll work together on this. And I would like you to plan to do this during our live work hours on the 2nd of October. We're all going to be together for a live class. And I think this would be a good place to work on this very short 2-paragraph essay. Okay, so this is an overview of checkpoint 3. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and go forth.